Thank you, Max, for leading our prayers. Well, we've got a few minutes before the act of remembrance, and you'll see on the service sheet I've put in there just to do a little introduction to the book of Haggai, because today is the first Sunday of a short series that we're doing in the book of Haggai, and it's important that we know a little bit of the context. So I just wanted to give you a brief introduction now, and then we'll do the act of remembrance when we get to 11 o'clock. So the book of Haggai, one first thing just to mention is how you pronounce it. I think you pronounce it Haggai. Sometimes people seem to add in an extra I and call it Haggai, but I think it's Haggai because there isn't that extra I in there. So that's first thing, is how you pronounce it. Next, where are we in the history of Israel? Well, next slide, please. We are at 520 BC, and we're in Jerusalem, the city of Jerusalem. Now, where are they up to in the life of Israel? Well, 70 years before this time, so 70 years before 520 BC, in about 587, there was an exile. The Babylonians attacked Israel and attacked Jerusalem and took people away from Jerusalem to Babylon. Ken, I think I'm just squeaking a little bit. So the people of Israel, the people in Jerusalem, were exiled to Babylon. And the temple in Jerusalem was destroyed. So this is after, if you know a bit about the Old Testament, this is all after things like Moses and the mountain and the people of Israel coming into the land. You've had the great kings of David and Solomon. You've had the split of the kingdom. And now, 70 years before Haggai, Jerusalem was attacked, invaded, people taken away into exile, and the temple destroyed. So that was 70 years before Haggai. Then, after a bit, the Babylonians were taken over by the Persians. And the king of the Persians, Cyrus, he said that the Jews could return to Jerusalem and that he would pay for the rebuilding of the temple. So, and that was in 539 BC. Ken, we're still getting feedback a little bit. I don't know whether it's just me that can hear that. Can you guys hear that as well? No? No, you can't hear it. It's just me. Okay, that's just a delight for me. Okay, so the Persians said that the Jews could return. This was about 20 years before Haggai, in about 539 BC. So some Jews returned, come back to Jerusalem. But of course, Jerusalem would be a wreck. It would be a mess. And the temple destroyed. But Cyrus said he would pay for the rebuilding of the temple. So they began to rebuild the temple. But it didn't last very long. The rebuilding of the temple took a few months, or they did it for a few months, and then it stopped. So next slide. And next point. Thank you. But the building work stopped. They kind of had to stop, but it did stop. And so years went by of the Jews having returned to the land and not working on the temple. And it's probably then about 16 years that have gone by that God's people had been back in the land, in Jerusalem, and the temple's still a wreck. And then, on the 29th of August, 520 BC, and we can be very precise about it, because Haggai at the beginning of his book tells us the date. On the 29th of August, 520 BC, Haggai is given a message from the Lord, and that is the book of Haggai.